Hi everybody, and welcome back to the channel. The Greek island of Kefalonia, the jewel in the Ionian Sea with its beautiful beaches, crystal clear waters, picturesque villages and breathtaking mountain scenery which seems to change around every corner. I had previously stayed many times in the lovely resort of Lassi, close to the island's capital, Argostoli. When staying in Lassi, I always booked accommodation here at the Irelena apartments. But as these were fully booked, I stayed for 2 weeks at the southern sleepy coastal resort of Katelios. However, keep watching the video to find out why, after a trip to Argostoli on a personal level, the second week didn't quite go according to plan. After an hour's transfer from the airport, I arrived at the Hara apartments and looked out from my upper floor balcony. The apartments are set amongst a garden with a small swimming pool, as seen here from the balcony. However, the pool has no bar or food facilities, and it's not every day you see a sign like this at your accommodation. It was attached to the gate of the apartments where I was staying, and during the holiday, on 2 occasions, I actually saw a pair of wild horses trotting along the road right outside. So now let's take a look around the area of Katelios. A 10-minute walk from the apartments leads to the main road, where there's a mini market and the Mythos apartments, which has its own swimming pool with a bar serving drinks and snacks. Fortunately, guests at the Hara apartments are welcome to use the Mythos pool facilities, as they are both run by the same family. After leaving the pool bar, I turned right onto the main road to make my way to the beach. Although it's never very busy, the main through road runs parallel, close to the coast. And this is the view looking inland. After a few hundred yards, a narrow road to the right-hand side leads down to the beach. On the way down, I found the Tetrapolis grill bar, where I later had a very tasty beefsteak and found the staff to be very helpful and friendly. Katelios, on the island of Kefalonia. This is where I shall be staying for the next 2 weeks. The beach at Katelios is a mixture of sand, shingle and small stones. The best areas lie either side of this entrance onto it. Turning to the right from the entrance road, you'll find a line of around a dozen or so restaurants and tavernas that lie right in front of the beach. Before deciding where to eat, it pays to take a look at the various menus on offer. Some of the restaurants specialise in fish dishes. It's also here where you'll find the best area of the beach. The small strip of shingle at the water's edge gives way to perfect sand, which slopes gently into the sea. It's great for swimming, although it pays to keep an eye on the depth of water, which at times can be unpredictable. I've now called a taxi and I've arrived at Skala, which is a lovely little resort and beach about 5 or 6 miles from Katelios. And here is the lovely Skala beach. Cruises run over to the neighbouring island of Zakynthos. If you're staying in Skala or taking a trip for the day, it's well worth taking a look at the remains of the Roman villa. It can be found down a short flight of steps shortly after you enter the town from Katelios. The mosaics on the floor date back to the 2nd century AD and are remarkably well preserved. After a couple of days of leisure on the beach and swimming in the pool, I take the bus to Lassi, a resort I know very well. So there's a bus service now which goes from Argostoli to Lassi. That didn't run when I was here 10 years ago, but I've just got off the stop and I've arrived now at the Irelena Hotel, which I know very well. In fact, I booked holidays 5 times in Lassi within a 6-year period, although on those occasions I stayed at the self-catering Irelena apartments, located at the other end of the resort. Both the hotel and the apartments are run by the same family. Although my initial inquiry regarding vacancies revealed the hotel was, as I expected, fully booked, the staff kindly found me a guest room where I was able to book for 2 nights. And after booking in, it was down to the beach. So I tried for a beer and I stopped at this restaurant and bar on a terrace overlooking the beach. Needless to say, I gave that activity a miss. I'm now going to walk along the main road, runs parallel with the beach, the strip as I call it. Along the roadside you'll often find these religious shrines where offerings are placed inside. A little further along the road I found my favourite restaurant in Lassi, where I had dined many times on previous holidays. The Il Gabbiano is renowned for serving excellent Italian and traditional Greek dishes, Galliano being the Italian word for seagull. The restaurant had been a little modernised since my previous visits, but unfortunately I didn't get round to having a meal there this time. Actually, the strip doesn't seem to have changed all that much. There's another restaurant here which I know, Veronica restaurant. But next along the street is Nefeli's Taverna, which I also remember very well. I'm quite surprised at how many of the restaurants, tavernas, are still the same as they were 10 years ago. I'm coming now to the end of the strip. Hopefully I'll find the apartments where I used to stay. And I found them, the Irelena apartments. And there they are. And this is the room I always requested and was able to book. Its unusual side-facing location meant it came with its own garden, instead of a balcony, as in the many front-facing rooms. I must admit, these bus stops and bus routes are a game changer for me, because 10 years ago you had to walk over quite a steep hill and over the other side to get into Argostoli, but this has made a big difference. Later in the day I got the bus right here to take me into Argostoli for an evening meal and to take a few photos of the town by night, but keep watching to find out why things didn't quite go as I had planned. And I've now arrived in Argostoli, the capital of Kefalonia. The bus station is right here in the centre of the town. A couple of cruise ships there in the distance. The strip of water is actually an inlet with kind of a peninsula on the other side. There's pedalos for hire just here. Can't remember seeing those before. The last time I was here was around about 10 years ago. Motorboats for hire as well. Also close to the bus stop you'll find a stone bridge which spans the strip of water linking the town to the peninsula on the other side. The bridge is known as the De Bosse Bridge, named after a Swiss military officer who served as governor of Kefalonia 1809 to 64. It was built in 1813 at a time when the island was under British patronage. Initially built of wood, it was quickly replaced by sandstone. It was closed to traffic in 2009 and after being renovated between 2011 and 13 was then reopened for pedestrians only. About halfway across there's an obelisk which rises from the sea. The monument was constructed in 1813 as a symbol of gratitude from the Kefalonian Parliament to Great Britain. The obelisk originally had a plaque which read "To the glory of the British Empire" in 4 different languages, but the plaque was taken down in 1865 when the Greeks regained control of the island. After the sun went down, I had an evening meal at the Captain's Table, a restaurant I knew from previous holidays. In my opinion, it has to be one of the finest in Argostoli. But I did not expect to be spending the night in a bed here, instead of returning to the hotel. After taking the photographs, I had a nasty fall and fractured my arm in 2 places. And before you ask, I was perfectly sober, the only drink all night being just 1 glass of ouzo at the restaurant. The following day at the hospital, I had a consultation with a specialist doctor before catching the local bus back to my hotel in Lassi, where I spent just 1 of the 2 nights that I had previously booked. After a much better night of sleep, I took the bus back to Katelios, determined not to let the misfortune spoil the rest of my holiday. I spent a couple of enjoyable days in the sunshine, resting by the pool, but regretting the fact that swimming was off the agenda. I also had a walk around Katelios Bay. It's now Sunday and I'm on a VIP minibus for the excursion to Fiskardo and Assos.
Well, we are going to be visiting 3 of the most beautiful places on the island. Our first stop today is going to be Melisani Lake.
The underground lake lies in a cave, part of the roof of which collapsed in an earthquake a few thousand years ago. At noon, when the sun is directly above the lake, the water appears as a deep turquoise colour. In 1962, a short tunnel was built down to a landing stage, where rowing boats go further into the covered parts of the cave, where you can see stalactites hanging down from above. The road leading down to the next stop of Assos is very picturesque. The village can be seen down below on the outcrop of land. It suffered extensive damage in the earthquake of 1953, and some of the ruined buildings still remain. And so this is the charming village of Assos, with its lovely coloured buildings, which were built after the 1953 earthquake. Just here you can see the castle on the top of the hill. And in this street, the new buildings mixed with the ruins that have been left ever since the 1953 earthquake. And so, leaving Assos behind us, it's back on the minibus to travel to the next stop of Fiskardo. So I'm now at the next stop on the journey. This is the northern tip of Kefalonia, and this is Fiskardo. Quite a few famous celebrities have been spotted here, including Dame Judi Dench, Tom Hanks and Madonna. One of the cruise boats down there in the harbour. They go over to Fiskardo. And how about the boat over there? And this yacht here is called my yacht, and it is my yacht. No, I'm only joking. So last stop of the day, and this is Motos Bay, where part of the film Captain Corelli's Mandolin was filmed. A little later we passed through the fishing village and port of Sami. From here ferries operate to many neighbouring islands, most popular being the closest island of Ithaca. They also go to Fiskardo and Zakynthos. Well, today is Monday and I'm heading back to Argostoli. You'd think I'd had enough of Argostoli after the accident, but there is one last place I need to visit before the end of the holiday. I'm now going to walk further along the path to a ferry boat station. And the ferry boat has just come in, just after 11 o'clock in the morning now. So the ferry boat is about to depart for Lassi on the peninsula, the other side of the inlet. This is the town of Argostoli. Just a few more cars getting on the ferry here. Now away we leave the port. On arrival in Lassi, I immediately boarded a taxi. My main reason for the ferry ride was to make my way to a quiet and peaceful beach called Leparda. I had intended to take the ferry earlier in the holiday, but my overnight stay in hospital delayed the trip until I had returned to Katelios. Transport to and from Katelios meant that I didn't have enough time to walk round the charming town of Lassi or take the scenic walk to Leparda beach. So I took a taxi to reach my first stop, the lovely red sand beach of Leparda. The first time I came to Kefalonia, the beach was virtually undiscovered, but over the years it's developed into a small resort. And the next taxi stop, a little further along, was here at Xi Beach, spelt Xi. It's often mistakenly pronounced Xi by English-speaking tourists, although it is easier to say. So that was a look at two other beaches on the island, and now back on the ferry, docking at Argostoli. So for the last time I'm heading back to Katelios on the local bus, and as you can probably tell I've got a seat right at the front of the bus. Before I came home, there was just time to go to a Greek night with guitar and bouzouki music provided by a talented duo. It was held once a week here at the lovely Persas Taverna, and diners were encouraged to try their hand at Greek dancing. The Persas became my favourite restaurant while staying in the resort of Katelios. And finally, here's the takeoff from Kefalonia. Look closely and you'll see that it was a bridge. So with my arm in a sling on the return flight, I reflected on the fact that the 2 weeks in Kefalonia had still been very enjoyable. However, the time in hospital and following days of rest prevented me from travelling to other locations I'd planned to visit. Also, with one arm broken, operating the camera became awkward and cumbersome. So hopefully, sometime in the future, I'll return to the island and go island hopping on a cruise or two, and spend some more time in Lassi, Skala and Lixiri. In the meantime, it's bye for now.